Hi, everybody. It's episode 495 of PodQuest.
Hey.
It is Wednesday, February 7th, 2024. I am Chris. With me is Druten.
Hello.
And Walnut.
Yes, I am with you.
How you guys doing?
You know.
No, I don't.
No, yeah, you do. You know.
Do I?
Yeah, you know. I'm just doing.
Okay.
So I had to take Chase to the vet on Monday.
Oh, right. How's he doing?
He's
Just a
fine.
hot spot, right?
Yeah, it's just a hot spot on his rump. On his side. It's like it's more like his thigh, upper thigh, rump area. Poor buddy. I was trying to not bring him. Because like usually just Benadryl and spraying it usually stops and works. But it was Sunday that he was scratching at one point before I could get to him, and he was crying as he's scratching. He's hurting himself. He's biting him. He's straight up biting himself.
Oh, poor boy.
And so it was at that point, the vet that I had started going to, they're closed on the weekends, I believe. So I was going to bring him to the Deptford urgent care, which is pretty good. I've been there before.
That one that's where, like, the Payless used to be?
Yeah, we're near the eyeglass place.
Yeah.
They're pretty good. And my parents go there often, because they have a million pets, and they talk good about them. So I was like, all right, I'll go there. But they were just busy. I called them at like 12. I was like, do you guys have openings to bring somebody in today? And they're like, we actually had to start turning patients back. I'm like, wow. They're like, yeah, we're super busy today. We'll take out your information, and if we open up, we'll give you a call. I'm like, all right. If not, it's not an emergency, so I can wait. And then Monday morning, he was crying again, so I brought him to the vet. They muzzled him because he's a butthead, and I don't know how he's going to react to being touched somewhere that hurts him. So we muzzle him, and he was in my chest the whole time, as like the vet was holding him. I was scratching his head, and she was like cleaning off his rump area and cleaning it like actually with like soap and water and solution, and like shaving him. And they gave him medicine. So he's got like an anti-itch medicine, he's got antibiotics, he's still on Benadryl, and they gave me this spray that's supposed to help with the anti-itch, as well as like just a topical kind of antibiotic solution as well, that he hates. He hates it. I think it stings. I think it burns. And so he gets so scared and sad when I have to give it to him. He like runs away from me. It's so sad.
Well, at least he's getting better. Like, do you have to wrap him or anything, or is it just...
No, it's generally wounds like this, it's better to have them out in the open so that they don't dry and fester and things like that. It's just preventing him from licking and scratching, which he still does, even with this ointment. So, I mean, it's just going to be hoping within, because I think they gave me like 7 or 10 days worth of medicine. Hoping by then that it's not as bad to where I don't have to go back or anything like that. Well, it's kind of a waiting game at this point. Hot spots, man. Dogs. If anybody who doesn't know what a hot spot is, basically a dog gets a skin reaction because they itch so much they literally bite themselves. And their mouths are full of... Whoever said that a dog's mouth is cleaner than anything in the world is the dumbest person in the world. Because it's just nothing but bacteria in there. If you get bit by a dog...
It's not the cleanest thing in the world. It is cleaner... it's cleaner than a lot of other animals' mouths. Like, you can get bit by a dog and not have to go to, like, a hospital to get it, like, properly cleaned. In theory, if you get bit by a cat and it, like, really punctures the skin, you should go to the doctor because their mouths are actually fucking...
Yeah.
Just... Yeah. Like, the girl who does the grooming for us, when I worked with her at the Cherry Hill Petco, like, she got bit by dogs all the time and would just like put a Band-Aid on it and go about her day. She got nicked by one of her own cats a couple years ago and was in the hospital for like 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
And like that was after like getting it properly cleaned.
Cat scratch fever, man. It's a legit thing. Not just a song.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It's a real thing. It's not just a song.
Yeah, that's true. I honestly forget that's a song.
Yep.
Man, there was something I was going to tell you guys, like an anecdote, and now I don't remember what it was. Did I do something over the weekend?
No, you didn't.
like I'm drawing a blank. Like I feel like there was something. Oh, have you guys ever heard of the Museum of Illusion? There's one in Philly.
No.
So like, it seems it's like a chain. It seems. There's definitely one in Philadelphia, and there's one in New York. We actually went to the one in New York on Saturday. It's really cool. It's not. I don't think it was all that expensive. But it's fairly small. It's got like 40 exhibits, and some of them are, smallish and close together. But it's a lot of like optical and mostly just optical illusions and stuff like that are mostly interactive.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's one room that it's set up where it's kind of like the Willy Wonka room, where at one side you are smaller than you are at the other side. So like if they have a viewing window, if you stand at the viewing window and two people go in, one person will look much larger than the other person, even if they're the same size.
Mm-hmm.
But like when you're in the room, it doesn't feel like it's slanted or anything. Like it's just like the way the room is erected. It's very weird.
Yeah,
like,
I'm pretty sure they've had rooms like that at like a Ripley's Believe It or Not type things.
Oh, probably. I've never been to one of those.
My parents, we used to go to one every time we went on vacation. We would go to because they're all over the place. And so we went to Niagara Falls, and there's one there. When we went to Gatlinburg, there was one there, I think.
I think we might have went to one in Virginia when we were there like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the museum, it's fairly small, but it's kind of neat. It's a lot of like interactive stuff. So like you can like take pictures of people like in front of the things that make weird pictures.
Nice.
Yeah. Fun time. It's worth checking out.
Yeah.
But anyway, Rich, what's on the agenda?
On the agenda, apparently there's some sort of Xbox rumors about pushing games to the PS5. We all watched Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Cub, you watched Leave the World Behind, which I don't even know what that is. Never heard of it. I don't think. Yeah, but I don't think I've ever heard of it, so I don't know anything about it. I read my first book of the year. I finished it last night, called Sea of Thieves, Athena's Fortune. And Cobb, you started playing Persona 3 Reloaded, the 17th remake of that game.
Only like the third.
I think fourth.
Well, I think it's the fourth release, but third remake, if that makes sense.
I don't know.
Well, because there's Persona 3, the original on PS2, and then there was Fez also on PS2.
And then Persona 3 Portable.
And then there was Portable on the PSP. And then there's this one. So this is the third remake, remastered, reloaded, but the fourth different release of it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also a full remake, ground up. So
yeah,
it's at least it's not like the PSP one where they added some things, but they also removed all of the cinematics, and it was just comic book pages. Yeah, that's our agenda. So Xbox, Drew, you've actually seen some of this stuff too, so it's not just me trying to remember it because I forgot to grab a link. Microsoft is rumored to be looking to, at least Bethesda games, push them over to other platforms, specifically Sony.
Mm-hmm.
And people are just being so just shitty about it. I don't know if you've seen any of that stuff, the people claiming that gaming is ending and Microsoft scammed them and lied to them by doing this.
I haven't, but I'm not shocked because fucking
nerds,
console fanboys,
fucking nerds. Yeah. That. Just look. I texted you guys about this today about Colossal Order. A lot of City Skylines creators are not supporting the game and not playing the game as much. Because of the lack of support that it's getting from Colossal Order, its developers. Also, a lot of that is because the community has become shit, because people will be like, why are you playing this trash garbage game, blah, 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 it's horrible, it's the worst. It's people being shitty because they... Look, I get it. Some people, at least in the City Skylines realm, feel slighted for the fact that City Skylines 2 is not a complete game. But... Also, don't be shitty to creators. And don't be shitty to people. Somebody sitting here saying, oh, the end of gaming because the Xbox is dead. Look, I started mentioning this beforehand. This has kind of been Microsoft's plan since the beginning of Game Pass. they have been wanting to get out of the console game for a long time. That's why they've been trying to move Game Pass and push for Game Pass and downloadable, streamable game content. And that's what the Xbox Series S is supposed to be for that shit. Because they don't want to be a console maker anymore. I
don't think that's entirely true.
They want to make bank off of Game Pass because they know Game Pass is making them more money than anything else.
It's not, though.
Are you sure? Like,
yeah, like I mean, they subscript like it's not making them no money, but it does not make money the way that like you might think it does. And
it's not like they don't have to pay to put the games on there.
Yeah, like they're not. I doubt they're losing money still. But like a lot of the industry talk, like around the time that like it was really taking off, was the cost of the subscription isn't quite high enough for the content that they have on there. So they were definitely taking a loss at some point. Whether they still are or not, I'm not sure. But they haven't had any significant growth in subscriptions either.
And that's why they're doing this. If they can get that growth by sending this shit over to PS5 and be like, look, it's reasonable to get Game Pass available over to PS5. And
I don't think that'll never happen. Sony won't do that.
You can't say like Sony won't do. Sony already has their own streaming service, but like
exactly,
like there's nothing saying that like what makes you think Sony won't allow them to have Game Pass over there?
Sony didn't want to let other platforms play multiplayer games with them.
I understand that, but
like Sony being a very traditional Japanese company, they're not going to want to work and allow another streaming service on there. They're going to want people to do their own like game service.
This would be a win-win scenario because Sony then has no competitor and Microsoft is making money on just releasing games. Sony has no gaming competitor. It's honestly the only people that can lose in this situation are the gamers themselves because there's going to be less of a strive for innovation. However, like, you know, console gaming like is pretty much as best it's ever going to get. Like you're not going to really change much from generation to generation anymore. So it doesn't really matter.
And keep in mind too, these companies don't make money off the hardware. The money comes from the game sales. So Sony putting Xbox platform like subscription platform onto their console is going to lose them money in the long run because then people won't have to pay them directly. They'll have to get a cut of it. Like that's just how those marketplaces work.
Obviously, yeah. There's going to be a cut of it for PlayStation.
But the amount of money they would make off of just making it where PlayStation 5 owners have to buy the game for $70, like they would have to get an outrageously good deal to put Game Pass onto their platform, especially with all of like
most likely
with how little of a markup like the physical consoles usually have on them. Like, so I don't know if they still are, but like early gen for PS4 and early gen for PS5, like they were losing money even with those consoles being $400 or $500.
They're probably making money on them.
That's the cost of doing business in general because you have to look into wholesale prices and wholesale costing. It's always going to be for the first X amount of time that it takes them to build these devices and these things and before they can streamline it and get the better wholesale values on them. It's going to be more expensive to release the first year. But then after that, it's going to go down, and eventually they will break even after the loss they made the first year and the profit they're making the third and fourth year. That's just how profit works when it comes to
but consoles almost never make profit. It's always the software. That's why, like, that's why GameStop,
like, consoles don't make profit for the retailers.
Yes,
but like Richie said, usually the first year or two, the consoles are sold at a loss.
And that's when the majority of the consoles are sold. Unless there's iterations on it, which Sony does a crazy amount of. I don't actually. They haven't really done any for PS5, have they?
They just put out Slims this year.
Did they put a Slim out?
Mm-hmm.
So I just searched: is the PS5 being sold at a loss? And the first thing that come up is a PC Magazine article where Sony's chief financial officer has this week confirmed that the company's $499 PS5 console is no longer selling at a loss. This is from August 4th, 2021.
Yeah.
Okay, so within a year, they stopped selling at a loss.
They stopped selling at a loss, which, like, yes, that loss might, like, that first year they were selling at a loss because it takes time to make that many consoles, which, I mean, the PS5, you saw how terrible that launch was.
Yeah.
They didn't really have that many consoles, but the loss is the fact that they are mass producing this thing without making any money on it for the first X amount of months before it's actually released. So they lose a lot of that money, and then they have to make that money up over time. So over that year, they made up the money of the first 3-4 months of not selling any consoles.
It also really changed the last generation. Both Microsoft and Sony did not overbuy components. You know, like the loss they got at the beginning was way smaller than like the PS3 360 era.
Which that era was also weird because of all the unique hardware they were using at the time, at least on the PlayStation side of it.
Yeah.
But this generation, they ran into the issue of like just supply and demand. Like, like parts were just more expensive, unfortunately. Like all the stuff they needed to make these consoles were significantly more because of the pandemic, and also like the whole crypto thing that was going on in the early part of the pandemic, where like chip costs just skyrocketed because everyone needed to buy 30 fucking video cards. To get their $3 in Bitcoin. But also,
fine, I will concede maybe they won't be bringing Game Pass over to the Xbox, but if Bethesda games start selling and they make, let's say because they'll be selling them for $70, say these games sold over on the PlayStation for $70, and for every game that's sold, PlayStation takes a $15 profit on each game or some shit like that. PlayStation is still winning off of this deal. Exactly. So it makes zero sense to not do this, because I full on feel that Microsoft is just done with consoles. So they don't want to do it anymore.
I only disagree with you on Game Pass going to Sony. Like the games, like there's no reason for them to say no to the games. Like as long as they are making money off of them too. Like they have to. There's no development cost into it. Like they would have to do for like any games that they were either publishing directly or like co-publishing. There's no marketing or anything like that. It's just the games just have to pass their what's that thing called that they have to do?
Certification.
Their certification, which also makes them money. Like the developers have to pay for certification.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you on Game Pass not going unless Microsoft actually does does say we're out of console market. Then Sony would have no reason not to.
So the one thing I've seen people actually like not pitching, but like theorizing, like based on just like Microsoft and what they do, is them doing some sort of like remember the Steam box, like doing something like that, but like rather than having it be like a console like it is now, like the Xbox is now, or like the Steam box was, have it be more of a PC, like have it just essentially running Windows, but like a scaled down version of Windows that has the necessary hardware to play their games, and standard like other AAA like third party stuff, and be able to just plug into a TV, plug into a monitor, like.
I think at best you are going to continue to see them making more devices like the Series S. The smaller,
not just the Series S.
It's basically the Series S just is the Xbox Series X, but not as powerful. But it's
digital only.
Yeah, and you also just take away the need for them to develop a separate operating system. Like they're always going to have Windows. They're literally just going to package something with Windows on it that is just Windows without all of the bloatware, essentially. Like, because it's going to come directly from them, or like kind of like the way that's not Steam Decks are going right now, where like Steam released their Steam Deck, and now there's like 2 or 3 other companies that are releasing like handheld PCs that are in theory doing the same thing as a Steam Deck. Some of them better, some of them not better. they'll just have other companies releasing these things that have this embedded version of Windows with no extra software loaded onto it that just runs Xbox Games Pass.
Yeah, because Microsoft sees the success of Game Pass of Epic, the stores, not like sees how good Steam does, sees how good the Epic Store does.
Does the Epic Store do well?
Yeah, I was going to say, I really don't know how well the Epic Store does.
Here's the thing. It doesn't matter how well it does. They make all their money off Fortnite. It's just there, and people use it. So
that's what I was going to say. Like how much? I wonder how much use the Epic Store actually gets, because you never hear anyone talk about it other than Rich. You post when they do that yearly
every Christmas when they do their Christmas free games. I post that. I try to remember to post their new games from time to time, because they do new games every 2 weeks. Starting tomorrow, it's actually Doki Doki Literature Club. Is Literature Club Plus, so there's added stuff to it.
Yeah.
As well as Lost Castle. Oh, they're gonna have two free games next week. Interesting. I only use Epic for that shit. There's a couple of games what was it? Dead Island 2 is only available there. It's not available on Steam. There are a couple of other games that are exclusively available on Epic that Fall Guys is only Epic. You can't play Fall Guys on Steam, or you can't get it anymore. You can't, if you had it before, you still have it. You can't get it anymore, as far as I can remember. The new Prince of Persia game, I believe, that's on Steam as well. But yeah, I'm sure the Steam game, the Epic Games launcher and store does fine.
Well, let's not go with store, because we saw how the Windows Store worked. What game was it, Rich, that you played that the Windows Store was just, it actually made it so you couldn't play the game?
Oh, well, wasn't that Games for Windows Live with RE4?
Yeah, that was Resident Evil 6.
Oh, it was 5. Or
no,
6.
6, yeah.
Yeah, it was Resident Evil. No, it was 5. You're right. It was 5.
Yeah.
It was 5. It was Resident Evil 5. That's the one where he plays Chris and Sheva. You needed access to Windows Live or something like that, which is no longer available.
Yeah, that whole thing was a mess. And I think because it was shortly after that they did their games for Windows through the Windows Store, and they're we're just going to go back to Steam for now. We'll sell our games through Steam again.
But, see, that's the thing. Drew, you had mentioned something about an Xbox or a GameStop tweet about dropping the Xbox Game Pass title and just turning it into Microsoft.
Yeah, so there's an Xbox demo day at GameStop on the 10th, and the advertising on it says, "Come play new Xbox games on the Xbox Series X/S, plus explore the benefits of Microsoft Game Pass." And all the replies to the tweets of it are Microsoft Game Pass?
And see, that actually doesn't seem that weird to me. Just they want it to be a more what's the fucking word I'm looking for? Flat marketing. So Xbox for them is very much the console that you put under the television, and they want Game Pass to be synonymous with both console and PC. So using the corporate name makes sense in that case.
Yeah, maybe.
But who knows? So they did. Phil Spencer tweeted out yesterday or the day before that they're not going to ignore all the rumors and everything that's going on. They are going to have some sort of state of Xbox thing next week.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure what it's going to be or how long it's going to be, but they did say they will be talking about it in some way next week. Which, good on them. Good for them for not just ignoring it and leave people to constantly bicker and come up with ideas. Mm-hmm. Let them bicker about whatever they are actually doing, because we know that'll happen too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
people are just going to be shitty no matter what decisions they make.
Yeah, it's fucking nerds. Nerds are just going to be shitty. I'm going to be absolutely negative to our listener base. Nerds are shitty. Nerds are some of the worst people out there. Nerds are also some of the greatest people out there. But there are some nerds out there that are fucking terrible. Yeah, and it's just I hate it. I hate it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, and it's unacceptable. I'm not sitting here saying, "Oh, they're just nerds gonna be." No, it's unacceptable. Stop being dicks. But it's what I expect from nerds.
Yeah, especially with stuff like this. Video games bring out the worst in people.
Yeah, it's video games are not the worst people. It's people are going to send death threats to Laura Bailey because she voiced a character who killed a character. Like, people are going to send death threats to what was the other most recent death threats I heard about?
People get them for fucking everything. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know. It was dumb. It's like I was saying, people are attacking YouTube creators for playing City Skylines 2 because it's a bad game. Like, it's not a bad game. It's just buggy as fuck, and the developer is not supporting it like they should be.
I don't know. From everything you've said, I think it might be a bad game.
It's not a bad game. It's just broken. and instead of them fixing it now, they're turning around saying, "Oh, well, we'll have it fixed with our release schedule or with our DLC schedule." And it's like, no, like this one bug is literally killing cities. You cannot play the game as intended with this bug. You need to fix this.
I mean,
we'll
that
fix
sounds
it
like
in
a bad
month
game.
and a half. We'll fix it in a month and a half. No, I mean it's not. I don't see it as a bad. It's broken. Yes, I don't see it as bad. Like it's like you can still play that feature, but you just have to alter the way you're going to play. Like, you can ignore that feature and just reset everything every time you play, which is a pain in the ass. It's broken. They have to fix that. It doesn't make the game bad. It makes it broken. And like if you're using, and this is I've argued against this because there's no reason this should be a thing, but if you're using the Thunder Store or Nexus mods, you can download the mod that fixed this bug. You can just download a user-created mod that'll fix this bug, and you can play the game absolutely fine. The problem is it should not be left to a user-created mod, which the developer is not supporting. They're not supporting mods still, which was their biggest reason that City Skylines 1 was as big as it was because of the creator community and the mod community. They're not supporting them, so, like, you have to go behind, you have to go through these other modding communities and not just using the Steam Workshop, which, if you look at the Steam Workshop for City Skylines 1, has the most active community on the Steam Workshop for modding.
Which is kind of crazy.
Like, you can get fucking Wawa in City Skylines, man.
Can you really?
Yeah, I had that mod downloaded. I had it downloaded. There was actually, I also downloaded, you could have Pokestores, Pokemarts.
Man, it took you 3 tries to get to that one, huh?
Look, they're all something Pokemon related. Maybe not the store, but actually the Pokestore might be like the Nintendo store or some shit. But the Pokestop is from is Pokemon Go. Pokestore, I don't know, is just probably Pokemon Go as well, and then Pokestop or Pokemon Mart, Pokemart's from Pokemon. So I didn't technically get it wrong.
you had a couple of tries there. Like,
yeah,
you weren't confident.
It might just be the naming convention. If we just turned everything to pal stuff, I'll be fine.
I'm gonna go no.
Pal Marts, Pal Stops.
Are there even stores in that game?
There are merchants in Pal World, yes.
Okay. Well,
what are those stores?
I mean, no, but there's merchants, so yes. Like, you can buy and sell things at these merchants that both wander and have their own store, own house that I guess could be considered a store, but it's just them living in a house that you walk into and say, "Hey, buy my shit, buy my pals, buy my enslaved humans that I captured."
Yeah, that game is a thing.
You can capture NPC humans and sell them. You can also capture NPC humans and butcher them, because you can butcher your pals.
Well, that's exciting.
Yes.
Anything else either of you guys want to say about the Xbox stuff?
No.
Let's
move on.
All right. Well, in that case, we watched Across the Spider-Verse for book club.
We did.
Drew, how much did you dislike it?
I came around on it towards the end, but it's way too long.
I want to comment on that. I absolutely loved it. However, I'm so happy that I got to watch a 2.5-hour movie that ended on a cliffhanger.
Yeah, so I didn't know that. I didn't know it was a cliffhanger.
I didn't know that, but I knew that kind of thing. Like, I knew that, like, I had heard, spoilers right off the bat, I had heard that he gets transported to the wrong world. I remember hearing that he goes to the wrong world. I did not know that it was because it was a cliffhanger and they just didn't finish the movie. I thought it was like how the movie ended after they defeated the big bad. That's like, so like I didn't know how he got to this other world, but I just knew that he went to the wrong universe.
Yeah, so I didn't know anything about that either. And actually, I guess spoilers for Across the Spider-Verse. But you saw this before, right? Like, didn't you see it in the theaters?
No.
Oh, this was your first time also?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought you had seen it already.
No. This was my first time watching it. But like, this was honestly the first movie in a while that I was like, I'm going to sit down and watch this because I really liked the first one. Whereas normally it'd be like, all right, I'll watch it during work or some shit like that. This one I was like, I'm watching this. I'm setting aside time and watching this. And so that's what I did on Saturday, I believe, or maybe Sunday morning before stream, as I sat there and I watched it. And like, I don't think the soundtrack was as good as the first one.
No.
Same. But it's also like,
didn't
it's not
lean
my
as hard
type of
into the
music.
Yeah, it didn't lean into the music as hard, correct.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought the art style and the way they did the art, and like they did this a little bit in the first one, but not as like strong. Whereas like the characters who were jumping universes still had the art style of their universe. Like you don't quite notice it for a few of them because like even though Gwen's universe is different, the character models are kind of way too similar for you to really tell the difference, but they like you could strongly tell that with a lot of the characters in this. It was like they were each arted differently. They were each rendered differently. They each had different movement styles and things like that as well.
Which they did similar stuff in the first one with Miles being at a different frame rate.
Well, that was because they did that because he wasn't established as a Spider-Man, and throughout the movie he actually got to the same frame rate. By the end of the movie, he was at the same frame rate. That had nothing to do with him just being from his universe. That was all about
I know that,
being
but
developed as a spider. Yeah,
I just meant that like they do neat things like that with the visual style of the movie. Like they did it in the first one, where like Spider-Man Noir was black and white. Like there was never any color on him. Like, he stood out differently than the other characters did.
But him standing out black and white is different than Vulture, Da Vinci Vulture being Da Vinci Vulture. Like
or Spider-Punk looking very
Spider-Punk being comic. Like stuff like that.
Like they took a lot of chances with it, and honestly, I don't think all of them worked. The weird blurring color thing they did in the background of a lot of scenes made it just look like you were watching a 3D movie without fucking 3D glasses on, and it kind of gave me a headache.
Yeah, I especially felt early on the art style was not good.
Gwen's world's art is just the background art for Gwen's world is very rough because it is just like it's this like watercolor style painting that they did for her world, but like it doesn't feel all fully developed and fully like there at times. I can get that. Like
they definitely had that stylistic choice, especially like when she reunites with her dad near the end. Like everything was very like desaturated color wise, but then other things like were like gradient in a weird way. Like Gwen in particular, like she was both desaturated and gradiented, if that's the way you'd say that, in like weird ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But even in Miles's world, like some of the backgrounds just it gave me a headache just because they were doing this like rainbow effect and blurring everything. Like it really did look like 3D movies. Like when you watch a 3D movie and take off the glasses. I
didn't get any of that.
Well, you should have watched it on, I don't know. Actually, your TV is 1080, right?
Yeah, I doubt it. I fucking don't know.
Old.
I mean, it's probably close to 10 years old.
Yeah, 1080 was around 10 years ago.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
it's just not 4K.
Yeah, it's definitely not 4K.
Maybe it's the 4K that did it to us, Drew.
Maybe
we should have watched it lower quality. But I watched it on like a 4K Blu-ray because I'm like, okay, well, these movies are supposedly very like visually stunning.
Mm-hmm.
So I had the Blu-ray. We had bought it around Black Friday when it was on like a really cheap sale, and just hadn't gotten to it. But now I have.
Yeah, I thought the story itself was good. Like it was interesting. It's normal. That's the thing. Like I've watched so many superhero shows. It's normal do I, don't I tell them kind of superhero stuff, and the superhero kid having trouble handling both superhero and real life. Like it was a little tropey, like, but that wasn't anything of a negative. It was more of just like I've seen this story quite a few times in so many different other superhero stories that it wasn't anything too special.
Yeah.
The villain was more of like the like, okay, I can understand this, but that also it felt, I don't know, I'm not happy with it being a cliffhanger, because like I spent 2.5 hours and nothing was wrapped up. Like they wrapped up because like you can't even say they wrapped up the Spider-Man Corporation shit either, like the Spider-Verse shit either. Like,
nope,
none of that is wrapped up. All that's wrapped up is nothing. Whereas, like, you can look at any other multi-part film. Let's use Endgame and Infinity War as an example. That is fucking wrapped up. They lost. Like, at the end of Infinity War, they lost. Flat out. That wrapped it up right there. That is an ending to the story.
You're also left with a bunch of unanswered questions at the end of that, too.
But yes, not in a sense of, oh, the lead character is captured and in the middle of some bullshit that I just sat 2.5 hours to watch. Literally, at the end of Infinity War, the villain won and left. Whatever other questions you have, that's just the normal questions of any general movie that can be built that way. There was an ending to Infinity War. I do not feel like there was no ending to Across the Spider-Verse.
Mm-hmm.
So the to be continued did not bother me at all. Like, movies do it.
The to be continued didn't bother me. The lack of an ending did.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it does not bother me. I knew going in that there was supposed to be a second movie. I just didn't know it was going to end on a cliffhanger like that.
Going in, not knowing that there was going to be another sequel, I was incredibly disappointed by the ending.
That's fair. But yeah, like they had announced that it was supposed to be Across the Spider-Verse Part 1 and 2, and then they changed that. We don't have an official name for the second part yet.
I mean, that's fine.
Like I said, I knew that he went to the wrong world, but I didn't know that it was going to end with him being captured by his other world self. And that's where, like, my problem isn't necessarily the fact that it ended like that, and more of the fact that it ended like that after 2.5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't bother me.
That's more where I'm leaning. I sat here for 2.5 hours and you could not conclude a story.
Like, I feel the same. Like, I personally do not feel like this ended any differently than a movie like Infinity War or Empire Strikes Back. Like,
I mean,
yes, some plot lines got wrapped up in those movies, but you're still left. End of Infinity War. So, like, spoilers if you haven't watched Infinity War, like, Tony is stranded in space with no way home. The Avengers are basically destroyed. The villain just won. We see a bunch of, like, major characters disappear. You know that they're coming back somehow, but it just ends there.
Yes, but like I said, you had that conclusion of the villain winning. The villain didn't win in this. Nobody won in this, and nobody lost in this. Miles lost in this, but nobody won. There's just this limbo of, oh, Miles isn't home because it sent him to the wrong world. Like, there was no... That's my problem. Like, you're saying, yes, Tony gets lost in space, which, like, it's unfortunate that he got lost in space, and that's, not, like, it sucks that he got lost in space in the middle of a movie, but at the end of Infinity War, the war was over. Whatever happens from that point, knowing that there's going to be another movie, is like, all right, we'll find out next movie. But with this, nothing ended.
Yeah, I'm with Richie. I feel there were no resolutions to any of the conflicts in this movie.
No, there was a conflict, like the resolution with Gwen and her dad. That's the resolution. The movie opened with it. It ended with it.
That's not a.
I am mostly kidding.
I know. But
also, like, I'm not discounting that you guys feel that way. I'm just simply saying I don't. Like, it did not bother me. I thought the movie ended in a way that, like, cool, there's going to be another one that's going to pick up somewhere around where this left off. I think all cliffhangers are like this.
What if they took about 45 minutes of this movie where like nothing really happened and just ended it all in one movie? If it was going to be fucking 2.5 hours.
Yes, I do think it was too long. I think they could have absolutely cut some of the stuff. But like sorry, Rich, go ahead.
Here we go. Here's how you fix this problem. The last half hour was Miles in the wrong world. Just end the movie with him going home. Then you resolved the fact that he was lost, that he was in the other universe. And you resolve the fact that he is now home. And you leave it to where he's home. And then then you build it up at then you find out in the next movie, oh, he's home in the wrong universe. He's not actually home.
I mean, yeah, that would have actually been the better way.
Mm-hmm.
Like it would have been a better ending. Or just, I would have, honestly, I don't dislike cliffhangers. So, I would have been cool if it ended with him literally, realizing he was in the wrong universe and it just cutting there.
Well, that's what she's saying.
Absolutely.
The way you just said it, I thought you meant, leave it where you think he got home.
No,
yeah, I mean, but then right when his uncle comes in, boom, movie over. Yeah,
that or him finally getting home, or anywhere before him leaving with his uncle.
Yeah.
Him seeing his, or maybe he does realize at that instance that, at that point you see his uncle come in. Oh my God, I'm in the wrong universe.
And then it cuts to Gwen, and she gets he's in the wrong universe. Boom, movie over.
There we go.
They unfortunately also told us that he was in the wrong universe when he got into the machine.
Exactly. Well,
yes, but if you don't think about that, which I totally did forget about that as the movie was going, if you miss that little bit, it's you don't. It's easy to overlook that little bit that he was going
also
to.
Just that out, don't show where he's going.
Yeah,
but
cut that
they
out.
Telegraphed it that last half hour. You knew he was going to end up going to the wrong universe before he ever went there.
But still, it's fine that we, the viewer, know, but the characters don't know. That's dramatic irony. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Literally, everything was fine. Have the uncle walk in. Miles realizes he's in the wrong universe. It cut to the Gwen getting the spider sense that, Miles is in the wrong universe, movie over. Don't spend the next 25 minutes of bullshit where basically nothing happens.
Yeah,
that couldn't just happen in the next movie anyway, which actually probably will just happen at the beginning of the next movie anyway.
It's going to be 2 hours, 2 hours of Miles in the wrong universe trying to get home. Then he'll get saved, and then 45 minutes fighting the Spot and also fighting Spider-Man 2099.
But also the first 30 minutes of the next 2 hours will be the same 20 minutes that ended this movie.
Yeah,
but animated slightly differently.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm not trying. This doesn't make me hate the movie.
It sounds like you hated it.
I thought the movie was a great movie. I thought it was very enjoyable. But I will never watch this movie until the next one comes out, and I will only ever watch these two movies together.
I mean, I just won't watch it again because
why watch it again?
If it's on TV or something,
it's going to tell you all the what happened in the first 20 minutes of the next one.
True. But you will because you from the first Spider-Man.
Here's why to watch this one again. It made me know about the existence of Peter Parked Car.
Oh yeah, the Spider-Mobile.
I didn't know that was a thing.
I missed that.
Oh my God!
There's a buggy that shows up at one scene, and a bunch of other Spider people jump into it. That's not a car. That is actually a version of Spider-Man from a world where everyone is a car. It's basically Spider-Man from the Cars universe.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Its name is Peter Parked Car.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they actually... So, not complaining about the ending, they did a lot of cool stuff with, grabbing some of the characters that have been introduced more recently in some of the Spider-Verse stuff they did. They just had one last year, I guess it was. 2022, 2023. That was the end of the Spider-Verse that introduced a bunch more new Spider characters, and they brought a bunch of them into this. The Peter Park car was one of them. There was the one Spider person in the wheelchair. They were one of them. I'm surprised that they didn't bring in the Cinderella Spider hero. Just it was a very unique one, and I feel like it would have fit this movie really well. She was basically like a Cinderella stand-in. The issues that she was in, all of her dialogue was sing-songy like a Disney movie.
Okay.
Yeah, like it was really clever, and I feel like it would have worked really well in the movie, but they didn't go that route. But I appreciate they did a similar thing like they did in the first one, where when they were introducing certain the spiders, they would give that little like, I'm such and such, the Spider-Man or whatever of whatever universe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I appreciate they did that a little bit, but they kind of cut back on it drastically too, and they shortened them. I think there was just like 5 of them total, and like each one got progressively shorter.
Wasn't there really only 2? It was just for Spider-Punk and
well, you got the reintroduction of Gwen and Miles at the beginning of the movie was the reintroduction of Gwen, and then you had the reintroduction of Miles, and then you had Spider-Man India and Spider-Punk, and a very short one with Miguel where he's just like, I'm Spider-Man at 2099, and he's like, and that's all you're going to get out of me. Like, fuck off, I'm busy.
Yeah, that was probably to do that one. It was more of like a foreshadowing type of, we're not going to tell you his story because you find out throughout the movie.
Exactly. But like, I'm glad that they kind of scaled back on that, but still had a bunch of spider people just kind of there doing stuff.
I know you were so excited to see Ben.
Oh yeah, no, Ben Reilly was great. I wish they hadn't played him the way they did. But it was Andy Samberg too, so that helped make up for it a little bit.
The emo, depressed Ben Reilly.
Yeah, which like isn't always how Ben Reilly is. I loved the art style they used for him. He looked very 90s.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think what other spider people were in it. I appreciate that at the end of the movie they had the core group from the first one show up again. Just they didn't have to pay Nicolas Cage or John Mulaney for voices. Which I wonder if they will have them back for the next one.
I would guess.
Like, I would hope so, but you never know.
Yeah.
They also, it was kind of a blink and you miss it, but they had the Mary Jane that was a spider hero from Renew Your Vows, which was it was an alternate universe where basically all the heroes got defeated and Spider-Man was one of the few that didn't, but the villain that took over like was too powerful. So Spider-Man just like basically went underground. He had to stop being Spider-Man. And he just raised his family instead. But after that villain got defeated, they came up with some weird device that he could share his powers with Mary Jane. And then eventually she just got a symbiote instead. But that version of Mary Jane was like just hanging out on like a rafter at one point. I'm like, that's weird, but okay. Like, I'll go with it. That's not like a traditional spider person like all the rest of them were. And even the machine that was sending the people back where they came. Sorry, dogs were barking at something, so I muted myself. That machine that was sending them back to wherever they were going, to whatever universe they came from, very much looked like I think they were called the Master Weaver in the Spider-Verse things. There was basically a character that was responsible for knitting the web of life and universe or whatever it was called, and kind of like following the threads and knowing where the different spider people were in the universe. And while they didn't make that a character, just the look of it and kind of the way it functioned was very similar to that. And I thought it was a nice nod to the comics. And just in general, they did a nice job of pulling comic stuff in without going like too hard or like being too strict with it. Like Gwen's origin is very similar to when she was introduced in the comics. Miles is similar, but they took liberties like with with Miles' spider not being from his universe and making him this weird anomaly, or with that whole like a captain has to die thing. And like you don't realize it, but yeah, like throughout Spider-Man, like a bunch of captains have died. Or at least a bunch of like police officers that are important to Spider-Man.
My favorite thing, this movie absolutely shows that the writers are not connecting anything anymore, or trying to, or aren't colluding with anything anymore. Because do you remember what universe he mentioned Doctor Strange in this movie?
No.
So in the movie he mentions world 19999 or something like that.
I think that's 2099, isn't it?
No, 2099 says this. He says, I dealt with Doctor Strange and that little nerd punk in world 19999 or something like that. That is the MCU. Before Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, where they have dubbed the MCU Earth 616.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that they
Yes.
redid all that.
They have dubbed the MCU and Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness as 616, but in this movie and in prior things, the MCU was known as apparently like Earth 199999 or something like that.
So I wonder if that was intentional or if it's just a matter of this animated movie took way longer to make than the time since Doctor Strange came out. Like, I wonder if that was just part of this, especially being that like it is not part of it's not part of the MCU at all.
But Doctor Strange came out after this movie.
No, it didn't.
Yes, it did.
This movie just came out back in June.
Wasn't it really that? Then, all right. So then, yeah, they weren't paying. It was this movie that wasn't paying attention because they could have easily dubbed that over Earth 616.
I mean, that is true, but like, why bother, right? Like, only us looking it up are really going to notice that. But like, were they really even like tying into the MCU in any way? Regardless,
it was when he was mentioning Spider-Man No Way Home.
No, I know that, but like, you also see there are shots of Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield Spider-Mans, Donald Glover as the Prowler, which technically he was Aaron Davis in
from the MCU. Yeah,
was that the first Spider-Man movie?
It was that was from the first. That was from Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah, but like they were mostly just pulling from the stuff that Sony owned.
Yeah, but it's still like Spider-Man No Way Home is in the MCU. And when he said Doctor Strange and that nerd punk or that nerd kid or whatever, like that was him referencing. I thought it was him referencing Multiverse of Madness, but no, it was him referencing No Way Home, and he used Earth 199999.
Yeah.
But like I said, in Multiverse of Madness, they call it Earth 616. So it's like, what's going on here? Unless because it's different universes, they're using different terminology because they don't have connection to the universe that dubbed it 616. But still, I just thought it was funny that like it was like, I'm pretty sure it's 616.
I think you're looking into it a little too hard now.
No, because there's literally Screen Rant has an article, Earth 616 or 1999, MCU's universe number finally has an official answer.
No. I meant you're looking a little too hard into why they did it in the Spider-Man movie.
No, I mean, I'm not looking. I'm not trying to figure out why they did it that way. I was like, oh, obviously they don't talk. That's really all I was saying. Like,
oh yeah,
obviously these writers aren't talking.
Yeah, the animated stuff has no connection with the live action stuff. Like, I'm surprised that they were actually allowed to use the archive footage of the actual like movies. Like, I feel like Sony and Marvel were just like, nah, let's just keep this the cartoon. We don't need any live action in our cartoons.
I mean, yes, and like I feel like with the introduction of the Spider-Verse in the MCU, it just makes sense to be like, all right, go ahead. Like, I think it would be more weird if they didn't connect them than if they did.
I don't know. I just see them like keeping it very separate.
This is probably the only time either of them are ever going to be referenced. Like, undoubtedly, there's no other time these two things are going to reference each other. But
they did reference in when they did the first Spider-Verse comics, or might have been the second one. They actually they used the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man and the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man because it was pre-MCU Spider-Man.
Yeah, I remember hearing this.
They used both of them in it, and I thought that was actually kind of funny.
Yeah, all Spider-Verses are connected.
Yeah, it's the web of life and something or other.
Yeah,
but yeah, I enjoyed the movie. I didn't have any I didn't have any problems with the way it ended. Like, it's cliffhangers happen.
I like the movie. I just feel like if you're going to leave a cliffhanger, don't make it 2.5 hours long.
You know what it is? Like, a lot. I'm used to comics and books that do just end. Like,
but again, it's 2.5 hours. You could have wrapped something up in that 2.5 hours.
You could have. It also, and still my argument, the movie didn't need to be 2.5 hours long.
Exactly.
No movie needs to be 2.5 hours long.
Me and you were making the same point, Cobb. It was 2.5 hours, and you did not wrap the movie up.
But we're not making the same point. I am simply saying it doesn't have to be that long. But I don't mind that nothing wrapped up.
But why was it 2.5 hours? If they didn't wrap anything up, why was it 2.5 hours? We are making the same point.
All that unnecessary info.
Exactly. There was no reason for it to be that long. If it was an hour and a half to an hour and 45 and it ended the way it ended, you know what? Fine. It was only an hour and a half. But it was 2.5 hours. It was 45 minutes longer than a movie that has a cliffhanger should have been.
Yeah.
That's like me and you are making the same point at that. There's no need for it to have been that long. My point is they didn't do anything to end the movie. Your point is movies are just too long. We are agreeing at that.
Well, we're agreeing it's too long. I'm just fine with the cliffhanger.
No, yeah, absolutely. But my reasoning for not liking cliffhanger is because it was too long. It was long. Like if it was a shorter movie and ended the way it did, then I wouldn't have bothered bringing that up. It's just the fact that it was that long and nothing came of it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we're just in the era where movies are too long now. I love movies. I don't no movie when a movie is getting that close to 3 hours, there's nothing there for it to be 3 hours.
See, I don't mind a long movie. I don't mind sitting here and watching a 2.5 hour movie. I don't mind sitting and watching a 3 hour movie. I watched all of Justice League 5 hour Snyder Cut in one sitting.
So did I. And it was unnecessary.
They definitely could have just made it 5 different episodes or some shit like that, like they originally were going to do. But 5 hours is unnecessary. But what I'm saying is a 3 hour movie isn't that crazy. I don't think that's bad. I don't think a long movie is bad as long as the movie has a reason to be that long.
And I think that's the thing. It's the difference between binging a TV show and watching a very long movie. Generally, an episode of TV is structured where it's getting you all the information you need and leaving you in a way where you just want to see what happens next. A 3 hour movie means that there's just a whole bunch of padding in that movie that was probably unnecessary and should have been cut.
Yeah, and I'm not saying there's a lot that needed to be cut, but I feel like they could have cut it differently to where it didn't have to be 45 minutes as long as it was.
That movie could have been under 2 hours.
It absolutely could have been under 2 hours.
And frankly, as an animated movie, it should be under 2 hours. The demographic is children. Yeah.
My nieces loved the movie, so time be damned. They loved the movie, but they had pretty colors, so.
Yeah, and I think that is probably the one thing that would keep some kids engaged is it's a very colorful movie, but 3 hours is too long. 2 hours and 20 minutes is too long. There's not enough content in any movie. Actually, the thing I'm going to talk about after this, also 2 hours and 20 minutes long, too long of a movie.
But you know what? Since you mentioned that, let's talk about it. What's this fucking movie that you watched?
All right, so we watched this movie called Leave the World Behind. It's based on a book from, I think, 2020. It's got a hell of a cast. It's got Julia Roberts, Ethan Hawke, Mahershala Ali, Kevin Bacon. It's got some people in it. And it's about it's a family. It's Julia Roberts and Ethan Hawke are a married couple. They have 2 kids. And they live in Brooklyn. And specifically Julia Roberts' character wants to get away from the city and people. And so they rent an Airbnb up in, I'm assuming it's supposed to be the Hamptons, Montauk area. They just say Long Island, but the house they rent is a fucking mansion, right near the ocean. Very nice area, but also very secluded. It's a small town. There's one way in and out of town to get to the highway to get back to the city. But also, you can walk through the tree line and just see the Manhattan skyline. It's very hard to figure out where the fuck this place is what I'm saying. But so they head out to this house and cell service and stuff like that starts going down. And by the end of the first day, you find out that New York City has had a massive blackout. And as the movie progresses, you basically find out that all technology is just down. So GPS is down, cell towers are down, airwave TV and radio stuff is down. Just the network across the board is gone. And they're just kind of stranded out here because there's no one really there. And they have no communication with the outside world. They just know that something is going bad in a big way. When they do try to leave at one point, the on-ramp to the highway is completely blocked by Teslas. And it turns out that there must be a Tesla factory or something like that nearby because it's the auto drive feature is just causing them to go haywire because there's no positioning. and they're just driving themselves in onto the highway, but crashing before they can get onto the highway.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually kind of a funny scene because it's just an entire on ramp of all the same exact model of Tesla, just all destroyed. But it could have actually been a much better movie if it was shorter. Like, it definitely drug on for a long time with like nothing really happening and no information really being given. And I feel like it was trying to straddle this line between being like a little bit of like a thriller in the vein of like a Purge movie,
Mm-hmm.
and being this commentary on like connectivity, essentially. Because after the power outage happens in New York, Mahershala Ali and his daughter show up, and they're the owners of the house, and they basically like they just got the fuck out of the city as soon as the power went out, and this is their other residence. So they come out here and they're like, look, I'm going to refund you like the money that you paid for the house if we can just stay here tonight also. And there's definitely like a little bit of confrontation between the two families and all that, but they end up just kind of having to deal with each other because there's nowhere for them to go. It definitely had some interesting ideas, but I just feel it just wasn't executed super well. Like at one point there appears to be like radiation stuff happening because the older son just wakes up one morning and all of his teeth are falling out.
Weird.
Like, yeah, like he's able to just like literally like pluck them out of his mouth. And there's no
Brush
real
your teeth,
explanation
kids.
for that.
He didn't brush his teeth.
Yeah. And like there are like these sonic noises going off that's like causing the people to like fall to the ground, like clutching their heads. Like it's one of those really, really high pitched sounds.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, at one point, Ethan Hawke's character is driving after trying to find like anything at all, and just this crazy wave of these red flyers just fall out of the sky. And it turns out that whatever it is, it's written in like Arabic or something like that. And the one side says "Death to America," and the other side they never actually translate. And near the end of the movie, you find out that a similar thing happened in like San Diego, but it was all like Korean or Chinese writing, is what they say, and it has the same message on the one side. So like you don't really know what's happening or who did it. You just know that essentially the world is, or at least America, is just being cut off from everybody. And the last thing they kind of tell you at the end of the movie is that there was some sort of defense contract idea for basically like to destabilize a country, you just have to crash all of their networks and just let the country destroy itself. And that's basically what they show happening at the end of the movie is the New York City is just like literally exploding. Like you just see buildings exploding in the background of New York City. Not a terrible movie, but like not one that I think is necessarily worth watching unless you have like 3 hours and nothing better to do.
Honestly, it sounds kind of interesting. Sounds like a movie I might be into.
Yeah, like
first of all, I love Ethan Hawke, and I love this kind of like post-apocalyptic kind of, or not even really post-apocalyptic, but because it's apocalyptic essentially. But I love that like that style of like this. It's like the apocalypse is happening, and we just have to deal with it now, kind of shit.
Yeah, like it had a ton of interesting concepts. I think it was just paced really poorly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was the problem. Like, there were lots of stretches where either things happened that were completely unnecessary, scenes drug on too long, or just nothing happened at all. Like, there are several scenes where, like, the kids are just playing in the pool. And, like, that's it. Like, they're just hanging out in the pool. Like, we didn't need that.
Looks, everyday life still happens even after the apocalypse.
No, I get that, but we didn't need, like, 15 minutes of it in a 2.5 hour movie.
No.
But, yeah, like, it's on Netflix. Like, and it's got a hell of a cast, if nothing else.
Yeah, that's a great cast, man. It's a great cast.
Yeah, I mean that was part of the reason why we watched it. I think somebody that Erica works with had like said that it was really good, and I looked up. I'm like, oh yeah, like this has like an amazing cast. Like let's give it a shot. Like I'm not sad I watched it. I just don't necessarily think that it's something that people have to go watch.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
But Rich, you read a book.
Excuse me. Yes, I read my first book of the year, Sea of Thieves, Athena's Fortune. It is a book written by one of the writers of the Sea of Thieves game. Like he wrote this book. It is based on the game. I think technically is canon for the game's lore, deals with primary characters that you deal with when you play the game, at times, depending on how much you do in the game, and the things you do in the game. It was really interesting to read the book because it is 20 chapters. However, every other chapter switches to a different character. So the odd number chapters are for Ramsey, and the even number chapters are for Lorena. And so their stories take place across 2 different timelines. But they influence each other and whatnot, obviously. Otherwise, there would be no reason to have it written this way. But you're just at one point you're reading about Ramsey, and then the next and it'll stop off with like oh man, this big thing's happening, and chapter end, and you'll go to Lorena, who's dealing with whatever else she's dealing with in her time. The cool thing is, in Ramsey's chapters, it is about the formation of the alliances of the Sea of Thieves and things like that, whereas Lorena is several hundred years after that, and she's actually trying to basically find the treasure that is connected to Ramsey's chapters. And the way they tie them together, one thing I like that they did is they don't waste time redescribing scenery. So if you're in a scene in a previous chapter that you come to in a later chapter for a different character, they don't redescribe it separately. It is like they pretty much assume like you recognize where they are at that point.
Okay.
Yeah, it was it's a fun story that it kind of informs you on why you do things the way you do in the game itself, which is really cool. For instance, when you collect certain treasures in Sea of Thieves, like certain treasure chests, you don't open the treasure chests, you sell those full-on treasure chests to a company called the Gold Hoarders. Well, this book explains why you don't open those chests, and why you just sell those chests to the Gold Hoarders. And what it is those chests are made of a cursed metal that can only be opened by specific keys, and the people of the Gold Hoarders are the ones who have those keys because of events that happened in this book. It explains to you why occasionally when you kill a skeleton lord, you get a scroll that has that has riddles that you have to solve for buried treasure, and like why that happens and why you sell the skulls to the Order of Souls. It kind of explains why some people are ghosts. It has a lot of the game mechanics like written in this. For instance, one of the characters dies at one point, but in Sea of Thieves, the game, if you die, you go to the Sea of the Damned, or the Boat of the Damned. The Sea of the Damned, and the ferryman will sail you around the Sea of the Damned until he determines you've paid your penance for death and lets you come back to life. And they explain that in this book. After that character dies, one of the characters is like, what is this? What are you talking about that they'll be back? They died. I saw them get killed. It's like, oh no. Most likely, they'll be back. Sometimes they don't come back. Sometimes the ferryman says, nah, you're done. But most times, if you die in this way, you come back.
That's kind of cool. So they at least, like, they found ways to connect it to a game that, like, the game is not a story game. Like, there's not, like, a...
Yeah, it's a... Honestly, I loved this because I'm all about lore in games, and it informs you of the lore while also giving you an entertaining story to read about certain characters. It took me till halfway through the book to realize who the fuck Ramsey was. And like once I got to that point, I had texted my friend who I played Sea of Thieves with, who she's read this book. I'm like, wait, is Ramsey the Pirate Lord? Which I should have known that Ramsey was the Pirate Lord by looking at his picture on the freaking cover of the book. But, like, he doesn't look exactly like what the Pirate Lord looks like in the game, so I'm like, it didn't really connect until I think he says a line, and then Lorena comments something in the following chapter. I'm like, oh my god, Ramsey's the Pirate Lord. That, like, makes me, like, oh my god, I'm so more connected with this, and I want to know, like, who are the rest of these people that he's sailing with? And, like, Lorena is a character that you actually associate with in the game. You sell stuff to her and you deal with her. It informs like how the Gold Hoarders became the Gold Hoarders and why they're known as that. It talks about I really hope they I doubt they'll ever do this, but Chris Alcock, who is a writer for Sea of Thieves, wrote this book. Maybe they'll, like, for the end of Sea of Thieves 1, maybe they'll incorporate a quest line to deal with the big bad of this book. Like, now, that would be really cool.
Do you think there will actually be some sort of, like, end to the game where they'll, like, do a sequel? You don't think they're just going to ride this one until it's done?
They have just launched, what is it, season, I can't remember what season it is, but I believe a lot of people are saying that this patch is their last content patch. Like,
oh, okay.
Or not last content patch, but like last major like content update for a long time. They are next moving forward into gameplay updates for a while. Like this season updates that they did to streamline the game for quality of life changes and HUD updates is like the last one they're doing for a while, or for a long time. This game, Sea of Thieves, has been out for 6-7 years, something like that.
Yeah, it has been out for a while.
I can see them with technology with new consoles and things like that coming out. I can see them maybe looking to doing Sea of Thieves 2 with upgraded graphics and engines and things like that.
Like that game actually has a decent user base, right?
It has as far as I know, it has a huge user base. Like it is some of my more successful streams. I get people who come to my streams just for the Sea of Thieves every Thursday. It's got a high viewer base, and it is worlds above what it was when it first launched. And so, like the writer wrote actually, there's 3 books for it. The writer wrote 2 of them. I don't know if he wrote the third one.
Wow, what a fake fan.
The third one is just a collection of stories, though. It's like 3 different stories in a book instead of like a whole tale. I'm actually looking it up right now to see if it says Sea of Thieves. I'm just literally looking it up on Amazon too because I don't remember what the name of the book is. Where's it at? Tales from the Sea of Thieves. Author Paul Davis, who I don't know who Paul Davis is. So it's not even written by apparently Paul Davies, not Davis, Davies. Or Davis. It says Davis on Amazon. I don't know. I don't know who he is. I don't know what connection he has to this game, if anything. But it's 3 unique pirate captains. It's three different stories. So I don't know if it's like canon or anything. But they have board games. They have books. They have a bunch of stuff. So like I expect to see a Sea of Thieves 2 within the next 3 years, or at least an announcement for a Sea of Thieves 2 within the next 3 years. Especially since Skull and Bones has just been released. I feel like they might try to capitalize on the fact that, like, I don't know how Skull and Bones reception is right now, but if that game has a stronger engine and better gameplay, I think they might try to capitalize on that by bringing in a new style. Hopefully hopefully they do it right and have like all of the content they have in this game in Sea of Thieves 2, and then just expand on that more. Because I'm sure there's limitations to the engine and game itself, where like they can't add too many more islands, or they can't do too much more of this or that. There's still plenty of content. I've played this game for I think I have like 3 days worth in-game hours.
You play every week, right?
I play every week for about and it's been pretty much the past year every week for about 3 to 5 hours each week. So like I have a decent amount of playtime in this. Let's see, Sea of Thieves. I have 7 days played time in Sea of Thieves. So almost 8 days.
That's all. That's a lot of time.
It's a good game to just go chill and hang out and play and whatnot. And
it will forever be the only pirate game because there are no other pirate games coming out.
Yeah, Skull and Bones is not real.
Well, apparently there's a live beta like tomorrow.
I mean,
an open beta, not a live
official release was soon.
It is. That's why they're doing like an open beta stress test sort of deal.
Yeah, which apparently Skull and Bones not on Steam.
Oh yeah, because it's a Ubisoft game, so it'll be on the Ubisoft.
Yeah, it's
whatever.
Ubi Connect. Yeah. But Sea of Thieves: Athena's Fortune was a good book. If you have a connection to the game, if you play the game, if you like the game, you'll probably like this book. Cobb, you might enjoy it. It's like it's more fantasy, but like not quite high fantasy. Like you don't need to know about the games to play this game. Like you won't connect two and two together, as I was. Like some of the locations that they mentioned, like you're not going to care like what these locations would be because you've never played the games. You don't care about the games, but like just overall as a story and as a book, like somebody like you might enjoy it.
Let's see, Thieves. That's not how you spell Thieves.
You can just borrow my book.
I don't read physical copies. I fucking hate it. Oh, that's weird. I expected this to be on the library app, but it's not. Yeah, man, I hate reading physical books. It's the worst goddamn experience.
I will say, of all the books we've read, as much as I didn't enjoy Finished Business, this was at points the harder book to read, just because, and it had nothing to do with the book and finding boredom. But every time I sat down to read it, I think it's just recent days in my life and things going on. Every time I sat down to read it, I would get maybe a chapter or two in, so 15, 20, 30 pages in, and start to fall asleep by the end of the second chapter.
So they're basically giving at least this one away for free.
Are they?
So it's on Kindle Unlimited, Kindle Unlimited is like $10 a month, and a ton of ebooks are free on there. So it's free if you have a Kindle Unlimited subscription, and it looks like the audiobook is $1.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 10-hour audiobook, which isn't nothing.
No.
But yeah, $1.
Give it a listen. Let me know what you think about it.
Maybe I will.
And if you like it, you can listen to Heart of Fire with me as I read that, but I'm not reading that yet. My next book is going to be one of the comic omnibuses I've got.
So unfortunately, Heart of Fire does not have as good of options.
No.
No, it actually doesn't look like it has an audiobook at all, and the Kindle is $10.
Mm-hmm.
Like $0 is the price that fits for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, at some point I might give it a shot. Oh, actually, that second one is actually way more recent. I didn't realize how big of a gap. 2018 and 2022.
Oh, wow. This is 2018, which is like 2 years after the game came out. So that's when it...
No, that's the year the game came out.
Is it really the year the game came out?
Yeah, 2018.
Wow, because they had reference of things that, as far as I know, weren't even in the game in this book. Because, like, it did, as far as I can remember, it did break a little bit of canon.
I mean, if it came out the same year, then yeah, there's probably things that they wrote in, like, they had, here's what the game is, and especially early Sea of Thieves was a very empty game. It was very Destiny-like in, like, you find bits and pieces of lore around the world. The game doesn't tell you, like, it's not like cutscenes that happened. So I can see them being like, okay, here's the world, write your book.
And so, like, one of the things that they mention in this book are the cursed chests, like the Gold Hoarders chest that I was telling you about, where, like, you can't open them. Mm. And then they mention a couple of other cursed chests that are all in Sea of Thieves, but they weren't in launch Sea of Thieves. They didn't come into play, as far as I can remember. They didn't come into play until the Pirates of the Caribbean stuff came out. And they brought those into the Pirates of the Caribbean stuff, or at least one or two of them into the Pirates of the Caribbean stuff, as like a story about these people. And there, it's the chest, the chest of rage, the chest of what is the crybaby chest? I can't remember. And the cask of 1,000 grogs. Like those three, as far as I can remember being told, they weren't in the game until the Pirates of the Caribbean stuff. But those three chests were all mentioned in this book. So like it kind of breaks canon because the Pirates of the Caribbean stuff explains at least one or two of how those chests came to be. But it's like, no, it came to be because they used magic. So I don't know. Maybe I'm misremembering about, because it was at least the crying chest, the chest of sorrows that was in the Pirates of the Caribbean stuff. I don't know if anything else was. We did the Pirates of the Caribbean stuff last year, so that's where I'm like trying to pull my memory from.
Oh wow, was that stuff really? I thought that stuff was more recent.
The Pirates of the Caribbean stuff was the first. Well, it was the second Tall Tales they incorporated into Sea of Thieves, and that was like 2019, 2020.
Oh, I definitely thought that was like only the last year.
According to Wiki, the Pirates of the Caribbean stuff was June 2021.
Yeah. So yeah, it was, and the recent stuff that they're doing right now is Monkey Island, which I think they just wrapped up, or will be wrapping up soon. Escape from Monkey Island.
Which makes sense because they just had the new one, the Return to Monkey Island or whatever they called it.
Yeah. And they referenced Monkey Island in the Pirates of the Caribbean stuff. There's one of the Pirates of the Caribbean quest lines that you can go and take that you can read a couple of journals that had Monkey Island in it. We're going to do Monkey Island eventually, but we were working our way through the first Tall Tales that they incorporated into the game, which was the Seas of Gold or something like that, before the new season came out, and then the new season greatly changed a lot of the game and a lot of the loot and rewards you can get. So we stopped doing those to play the new season with some of the new content that they've incorporated.
Nice.
Yeah, but check out Sea of Thieves, Athena's Fortune by Chris Alcock. I liked it. I liked it a lot. Like I said, I'll read, probably one of the other books I'll read this year is Heart of Fire, but I want to read some of my older books before I get to some of my newer books.
Just keep reading books. Just keep reading books.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna do Amory Wars next, and then I'm gonna do the Doctor Who comic after that, and then I think I might find an actual book that's not one that I own, not the Sea of Thieves one. It might be something non-IP related that I know of. You get a lot of the books I'm reading are
unique
IPs that I know, something new or unique or something that I've never read before. I've been wanting to read the Maze Runner books because I saw the first movie and I really liked it. I'm I want to read these books. Something like that, more so than but even doing Maze Runner is a little bit more in line of what I'm trying to avoid for after these comics, because then after those two comics, then it'll be one of those novels, then I'll do Lock and Key, then it'll probably be Sea of Thieves, and then we'll have to figure out from there.
Let me just hand you a book and you just read it sight unseen.
Maybe.
I won't give you something that's bad.
I'll think about it. We've got a couple months to get there. I've got 2 giant freaking comic books to read next.
Oh, they're going to take you a day. Comics are fast.
We'll see.
Gotta go fast.
We'll see. But speaking of comics, this doesn't work. How's Persona 3 Reloaded?
I like it. I've never played Persona 3 before.
I liked Persona 3 as much as I played it. It's very different in the other Personas. I haven't really played any of the other Personas. I just know the worlds and dungeons are much different than Persona 3, whereas in Persona 3 it's just a tower. It's one singular dungeon that you go up.
Yes, but it's still got all the same vibes, and
yeah.
I unfortunately can't tell you how different the original was from this, just because I never played it. But this one, they definitely it's a full remake. So they haven't necessarily added anything to it, and to what I understand, there's actually some things from Fez and Portable that were added to the game that are not part of this one. One of those versions included a female protagonist that you would actually pick male or female at the beginning of the game. That is removed, and I believe the post-game stuff that Fez added isn't in this either. Doesn't mean it won't be added as DLC, but it's not there right now.
Yeah.
But it's very stylish in the way that 5 was, so the menuing and stuff like that is very reminiscent of 5, which makes sense. That game, that game looked really good. They did a good job visually with that game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that the original PS2 release was much more in line with what I remember of Persona 4, more actual menuing, where Persona 5 had it more down to just buttons, X is attack, triangle is use a persona, stuff like that, instead of your traditional RPG menuing of like, move over to magic, pick the magic you want to use.
Yeah, that's how Persona 3 was. It was menus.
Yeah. So this one's styled more like Persona 5, but yeah, you're right. The dark world or whatever it is in this one is a tower that replaces your school at midnight every night, which actually reminds me a little bit of Persona 4 too, because Persona 4 had the midnight channel, which is where they would find out when somebody has been abducted, and that was their signal to enter the television. Because in Persona 4, you enter the television to get to the other world. But yeah, so it's a tower, but the tower does change. So aside from it being a procedurally generated, you get to a certain point and you can't go any further. And then once it unlocks the next thing, it's a different, basically biome is the way that they're kind of describing it in the game. I haven't gotten that far yet. I think I've played like 7 or so hours. I'm at the end of April. The game starts the beginning of April. I'm up to that point of the tower. Like, I got to the first roadblock, and they're just like, we can't go any further right now. Might as well just live our life. Like, we'll figure it out later. So I'm sure it's at some point they're gonna be like, hey, we figured out you have to go do this thing and beat this thing, or somebody's going to die, because that's usually how these games go. But so far it's very Persona. Like I immediately, it feels like those games do. You're the protagonist. You're new. You immediately get introduced to 2 other characters that are same grade level as you, that will also be doing the Persona fighting with you. Your character has some superhuman ability to use Personas without any knowledge or training of them. Meanwhile, a bunch of the other people in the game are just like, yeah, we've been doing this for at least a while. The one girl that's on your team, apparently, like, the game starts where she is afraid to actually summon her Persona. Because in this game, to summon your Personas, they have to shoot themselves in the head.
Yeah.
Which is real fucking weird.
It was a huge. I remember it being a huge controversy when it came out. It was huge controversy.
I do remember that too. It's very funny because, like, the game is so much clearer and high res now that, like, there's no mistaking that these are guns. Like, they're called invokers, so, like, they're not actually guns. But, like, 2 of my characters put them to their temple, pull the trigger to summon their Personas. And, like, they pull the trigger and you see, like, the blue magic shoot out the other side. And then the one girl, like, holds it to her forehead and pulls it with her thumb. And the opening cutscene is actually her, like, trying to do it and failing and collapsing to her knees, crying. Mm-hmm. And, like, at that point, you know nothing about this game. It just looks like this girl just tried to kill herself.
Yeah.
But so far, like, I'm enjoying it. It's very much one of those games where half the game you're going and just dungeon crawling, half the game is a life sim. So I've got 2 part-time jobs. I'm in two clubs. I'm on the track team and the student council. I've played House of the Deceased at the arcade. It raised my courage.
Nice.
Yeah. So just a lot of that stuff. You live in a dorm in this one, so you have a little bit more. So far, it seems like you have more freedom. Because even in the last one, you weren't supposed to go out at night until fairly late in the game. This one, just basically as soon as you, like, become a Persona user, they're just like, yeah, cool, you can just go do what you want. Like,
yeah,
like, it's cool. Like, we trust you now. You know how to shoot yourself in the head, so you got this covered. It's also just the way that, like, the lore is working for it is it's only 1 hour a night that this happens, and it's basically at midnight every night. Time sort of pauses for an hour for everybody except for people that have this Persona ability. So the people that are, like, sensitive to whatever is going on. Everybody else actually turns into a coffin, like a floating coffin, just wherever they were at. Whether they were home sleeping or, like, standing in, like, a store, they just become a coffin for an hour. But once that hour's up, it just becomes 12:01 a.m. and their 24-hour period just keeps going. The people with Personas get that hour to go try and determine what's wrong and explore. The tower is called Tartarus.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's interesting so far. I like the tower idea. Because Persona 4 and 5, it was, like, different dungeons each time, and generally the dungeons were themed after whoever the kind of enemy was. More so in 5. In 4, like, all the dungeons were pretty samey until the end. It was more just the area that you went into was themed more after, like, the person and why they were in there. This one is just like, yeah, this is just a tower. Like, every floor kind of looks the same, but it's going to rearrange if you leave and come back. And every, like, 5 or 6 floors, there's, like, a mini boss so far. So, like, you run around, you kill a bunch of the shadows, you get to, like, I want to say it was 5, 7, 5, 11, and 21, I think, were the 3 levels with, like, the mini bosses. And, like, each one got progressively harder, and you can tell that this was very much the tutorial section of the game, because every time you kind of, like, hit, like, a new area, they're like, okay, and now I'm going to show you how to do this thing, and they have you sneak up on an enemy to get a preemptive attack, or do an all-out attack by hitting the weaknesses, things like that. But yeah, it's been fun so far. I'm enjoying it. I wasn't actually planning on even starting it right now, and I didn't realize it was $70, but it was on Game Pass. So I'm just like, oh, you know what? Like, I'm curious. I will pay for a month of Game Pass and try it out. And if I'm still in the mood to keep playing it after that, I'll just let my subscription keep going. If not, like, I'll pause the subscription and come back to it a little bit later when I'm more in the mood for...
Just got to make sure you beat it before 7 months go by.
Why?
Because then you would have wasted your money of not just buying it.
I don't leave the subscription running.
I'm just saying that, like, if just got to make sure to beat it before you spend $70 in Game Pass. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. Well, so, to be fair, usually when I have Game Pass, I will play other games, too. So, I'll bounce around into some other things at the same time. But Final Fantasy VII Rebirth comes out on the 29th, and I am more interested in that right now than Persona. As much as I like the Persona game, it's like a 110-hour game, so I don't mind sort of playing it till the end of the month, turning off Game Pass for a while, getting Rebirth, playing that, and then when I'm in the mood for another JRPG, going back to Persona, and either just buying a digital copy of it on Xbox or resubbing to Game Pass.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't mind the $70. It was just more of a... I knew I wasn't I wasn't necessarily going to play the whole thing right now. And it's like, I don't need to spend $70 right now. But I can spend $15, get a feel for that, and like play a few other games that look interesting on there. And then, get my money's worth, essentially.
Yeah. Final Fantasy VII, man, I can't wait for that. I'm not rushing, but kind of rushing some of my stream schedules to be able to have Final Fantasy VII, to not be playing a game when Final Fantasy VII comes, so that once Final Fantasy VII comes out, I'm like, all right, great, and not have to worry about finishing up any other game. So, like, for instance, Shenmue, I should beat on Monday, and then Lego City Undercover is the next game I'll be playing in that list. I'll start on the 18th, and that's like a 15-hour game. So the 18th, 19th, 20th, and the 25th, I should probably have Lego City Undercover beat by then.
And like literally just before Final Fantasy comes out.
Yeah. So yeah, like I should have Lego City Undercover beat before Final Fantasy comes out. Then it's like the only game I have left on my list of game requests is Star Ocean, which like I've told them and they're okay with it. I am not paying $70. I'm not paying full price for that game. So I will get it as soon as it's on sale. Like Lego City Undercover is $20. So I'm like, all right, that's fine. I don't mind paying $20 for this game. Shenmue was gifted to me when they requested me to play Shenmue. And Baldur's Gate was bought for me. So that's why I had to play all those. But I told the person who requested Star Ocean, like, it's a brand new fucking game, and I can't, he's like, you can wait until it's on sale. I have absolutely no mind on that. So it's also part of the reason. It's also part of the reason why I increased my new game redemption up to 30,000 points, because too many people were redeeming new games. 10,000 points was too easy to get.
I was gonna say it was 10,000 before, right?
Yeah, it was apparently. I know. I have somebody who has been a new viewer since like mid-December or something like that. I don't even remember when they found my stream. I think they found me through Subnautica, which we're on episode 8 today, and they didn't find me until midway through Subnautica. So like less than a month, or about a month, if they've been following my stream, that they have already been able to redeem me to play a game. So like 10,000 points was too easy to get, apparently.
Well, at least now you know.
Yeah, so I upped it to 30, and I'm still considering upping it to 50. Like, even more. Depends on if it gets redeemed a lot more or not.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
Often.
See how often it gets redeemed, and then kind of go from there.
Somebody
Hopefully somebody redeems it for Persona 3 Reloaded.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, look, if it's another RPG that gets redeemed, it's just going to be a while before I play it. That's kind of my other point with Star Ocean. It's like, that's another RPG.
You're an RPG streamer.
I'm not, even though the next big game I'm getting is a fucking RPG.
Look, in the last year, you have played more RPGs than anything else.
Yeah, because, I mean, yeah.
And
but it's
you can't just say it's only because of games that other people requested. Like 2 of the games that you will have played by like summer were like your choices with Final Fantasy 16 and this one. Even if 16 is not really.
But see, that's the thing. Like Tales of Arise was RPG, Final Fantasy 16 was RPG, and Final Fantasy 7 Remake RPG. But like those are all games I chose to play. But it's also like how much of those are like how much can you truly say Final Fantasy 16 was RPG? Like,
I mean, less than the other 2.
Yeah,
Dude,
that's more.
Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth has a sphere grid.
Great. So does apparently. I mean, you could technically say Enshrouded is also an RPG because it's got a sphere grid and progression system. Like an RPG.
I just know how much you love sphere grids.
I love sphere grids, man. They're great. I love sphere grids, but I mean, Final Fantasy 7 Remake had a pseudo sphere grid. Kind of.
Yeah, it did. But so this one has a sphere grid for your party level.
Okay.
So not only do your characters get levels, your party actually gets levels, and the higher level your party, the more like cool combos you can do.
Interesting.
Yeah. Persona 3 does not have a sphere grid, but it does have a bunch of cool leveling things you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Just like it's got the card set up. Just to bring it back to Persona 3 before we wrap up, it's got the card set up similar to Persona 4. Where at the end of a battle, particularly if you've gotten one morse, which is when you hit an enemy with either a critical attack or their weakness, that particular character gets to go another time. You get to do this thing at the end called a shuffle, where it presents you with 2 to 5 cards that have different effects. Some of the cards give you money after the fight. Some of them will give you extra experience for that fight. There's some that will heal either just the main character or the whole party for a certain percentage of health. And there's cards that are new personas for your main character to be able to use. So you want to get those as often as possible to get more personas, so that you can then take those personas to the Velvet Room, fuse them and stuff like that to make more new and stronger personas, and then ideally get more personas and kind of repeat the process to keep evolving and getting new ones and getting new abilities on the ones that you fuse. Because usually when you fuse them, you get the opportunity to bring a couple abilities that are available on the cards that you are fusing from. So like if you fuse like a fire and an ice type persona into something, sometimes you can give it both an ice and a fire ability after that, and it becomes, like a real bullshit character to have.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good time. I like it. I'm going to keep playing it.
Yeah. Goth Pokemon. I love it.
Basically, yeah. But this time you're not ripping the masks off of them all forcefully like you did in 5. Now you're just running up to them with a fucking sword that like a person just randomly handed you.
Yeah.
Like literally, like you're the first time shit goes south, this girl just pulls out a sword and goes, "Here, take this." It was very Legend of Zelda-y.
Nice.
And this was before you knew anything about personas. It's just like, here, you might need the sword just in case. Oh, actually, one other fun thing. In this game, the police are the ones that sell you your armor and weapons.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, like there's one cop at this one particular police station who like can't see the personas, doesn't really know they're there, but is just taking the word of some high schoolers that there are creepy monsters hunting people at midnight every night. So he's just, and for whatever reason, like this particular police station must just get a lot of contraband of like melee weapons and armor. So like you're not buying guns from them because the only guns you get are the evokers to summon your personas. But like you can buy bow and arrows, you can buy swords and literally like both katanas and like big broadswords, and then different types of armor and amulets and stuff like that. It's very funny.
Yeah.
But that is probably all I have to say about Persona. Anything else either you guys want to talk about?
No, I think I'm good.
No.
All right. Well, in that case, we will wrap it up. Oh shit, we didn't figure this out. What is our next book club?
Oh well, Drew, do you have any idea of a alien or extra dimensional type of movie?
Nope.
Would you like to randomly pick a movie with an alien in it?
Not really. Go ahead. Y'all pick something.
Rich, do you have anything else for that game?
Wasn't there what's that Tom Cruise Oblivion? Wasn't there a Tom Cruise movie? I don't know if that has anything to do with the actual.
You know, it's a shame. There was something the other day that I was thinking of. That I'm like, man, I should have picked this movie instead of Spider-Man, and I don't remember what that movie was anymore. I typed Alien movie, and it just gave me all of the Alien movies.
Yeah.
Surprise.
There's
you
like
searched Alien movie, and it gave you Alien. What a shock.
No, I mean, we could just move on to a new category.
Yeah, you know what? We can do that.
All right. Do you got either of you have categories in mind, or should I just pull up my list of categories?
Pull up your list of categories. I'm bad at coming up with categories.
All right.
I'm sure, Drew, you don't have any categories, right?
Nope.
Let's see. So we've got parody or single take films. We've got vampires / modern fantasy films. We've got biopics. We have remakes, and then we have another set of parodies.
Well, I picked the last topic, so one of you guys wants to go ahead and choose one of those.
You know what? We'll go with the. Let's see. Is it available still? No, I don't think it's available where it used to be. At least it's not showing on Google.
What movie?
Birdman. Over this last time, because remember, I made this list a while ago before the strikes, and it was originally available on Max, but it's not anymore.
And Just Watch is not working. Oh, there it goes. Yeah, it doesn't look. It's only a rental now, or DirecTV.
Okay, then let's see. That's also. No,
you need to make a new list, is what it sounds like.
I mean, those stupid strikes screwed up our list. Here we go. Fine. This is gonna be. We'll do the remakes. We'll do remakes. We're gonna watch 2024's Roadhouse. Actually, no, that's not out yet, is it? Didn't that come out last year? Why is it saying 2024?
Yeah, is that actually out? The one with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Another Roadhouse remake?
Like, I know there's one with Jake Gyllenhaal coming to like Amazon.
There was supposed to be one on Netflix as well, which is what I have it listed as. Unless it's just not on there anymore. Unless it never came out. I could have swore it was already out. Oh, it comes out on March 8th?
I don't know if it's... Google, real quick, it says initial release March 8th, 2024.
So it'll come to Prime Video on March 21st.
Okay, so then, you know what? None of my movies are... Actually, there might be one more. There might be one more. I think this one... this is the only one that's actually available on a streaming service for free right now. We're going to go with the modern fantasy / vampire, and it's called Day Shift. Day Shift. It's Jamie Foxx.
I've heard of this one. I've never seen it.
Came out in 2022. Jamie Foxx, Dave Franco, Natasha Lou Bordizzo. He is a down on the dumps vampire hunter. That LA Times calls a damned delight and one of the best horror comedies of 2022. So there we go.
All right. So in 2 weeks,
we can even expand it to just horror comedies if we don't want to sit strictly for modern fantasy / vampire. But I feel like there's by modern I mean not fantasy. So like if you wanted to do
I like future Twilight.
I actually know what I'm picking already, and it's on Max.
Or From Dusk Till Dawn is, even though it takes place in the 90s, 80s or 90s,
yeah.
Like that's also considered modern fantasy.
Right.
As long as it's not fantasy era, like actual back in medieval times.
Yeah,
that's what I mean.
Medieval fantasy.
Yes.
But yeah, I know what I'm picking.
The other one was one of the other ones I have in mind was Daybreak, I think it was that Will Smith fantasy one with the orcs and elves and whatnot in modern times LA.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. I thought it had a different name than that though.
I don't remember.
It was another Netflix one though.
Yeah, it was a Netflix one.
Yeah, I do. I don't remember what that movie was called. Maybe it was Daybreak, not Gemini Man. Bright.
Right. Yeah.
Wow, that is older than I realized. 2017.
Yep.
Damn.
I watched that with my ex.
Huh.
And I fell asleep halfway through it. I think I was just she stayed up late and she stayed up to 2 or 3 o'clock all the time, and so we started it after she got here midnight. So I fell asleep because I was just generally tired, not because it was a bad movie.
I don't know. Could have just been a bad movie. But yeah, cool. So in 2 weeks we'll watch Daybreak or Day Watch. Day Watch.
Day Shift.
Okay. I don't know
Day
why
shift.
I put Daywatch down.
Because you really wanted to watch Baywatch.
No.
Oh shit! Code 8 has a sequel coming out. That's right.
Yeah, they just announced it like a few days ago. But anyway,
It comes out at the end of the month.
if you would like to find more of our content, you can head over to www.one-quest.com. You can also help us out by supporting us at patreon.com/onequest. If you can't support us there with your dollars, you can go to your favorite podcast platform, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. Rate us, review us, subscribe to us. All of it helps. You can also find us on social media, facebook.com/onequestonline or at @1_quest on Twitter and Instagram. Our YouTube channel is youtube.com/onequestvideo. And you can always send us an email to social@one-quest.com. And Rich, what does your streaming look like?
Twitch.tv/B_1 for video game streaming Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. You know, all the good stuff. It's going to be tons of Baldur's Gate is over, so there's no Baldur's Gate. This Sunday coming up, big sports ball game Sunday. We are playing football manager or whatever it is, just because I like the bit. And on Tuesday coming up, we are doing our spooky game for the month. It is Valentine's Day related, and I mentioned it last week, I believe. But you're going to have to come check it out on Tuesday to see what it actually is.
Well, that seems ominous.
It's on purpose.
No, I know. But yeah, with that, we will be back next week with something else to talk about. Thanks for listening. Bye.
See
Bye.
you.